the 14th of November, I'm sorry, 24th of November 2014. Getting the comment from somebody offline. Okay, Ashley Webster.
Oh, and can you enable the Q&A thingy?
Here it is. It should be enabled. Oh, nope, here it is. On. Okay, it's enabled.
Thanks.
No, problem completing this action. Let's see.
Go to the original post or whatever post you did for this event, and you can click on it from there.
It is enabled there.
Oh, it is?
Yes. I'll disable it and I'll enable it again.
Okay.
Anyway, we're live. If you want to talk about your hand and what you're having problems with, and if you've got suggestions, Bob, feel free to chime in.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I've been working a lot since the Baltimore conference where the blue poster was up. I call it the blue poster because the color of my filament was blue at the time. But I've got just this so far, really. It's 2 rings. And this is actually just a spinner ring on the middle. You know, the little ones that you fidget with in class or at work or something. So I'm using that as a hinge because then you can wrap the force around and actually open the hand. But I haven't figured out how to close over here yet because it needs the same concept where it wraps around to create the force to close.
Sure.
The hand's in the way. So
Right.
I can't call any of the models from existing hands.
Okay. Can you sit a little closer to your mic or something?
Okay.
Anyway, so you're building something for a person with some paralysis?
Yes. The Airy arm is a exoskeleton device for a hemiplegic kid, actually. So he can't use his hand or his wrist. But it can work for a bunch of different things, arthritis or stroke patients or anything like that.
Sure.
Theoretically, once it works.
Where are you going to drive the locomotion?
From the elbow, actually.
From the elbow. Okay. So you're wanting to use the elbow to power it in both directions.
Essentially, yes. I actually already have the whole elbow device worked out. It's this really pretty dual hinge, long pin, I guess, kind of thing that it rotates on and works pretty well. It's just routing it around the hand and all of that's not working right now.
Well, I guess there's a couple different things that come to mind immediately. Is you can either go through the middle between the fingers, or outside the fingers.
Yeah.
How about like the Bowden tubes across the palm? Like the brake line tendons enclosed in a non-moving tube that could go across the palm, and then when you pull the fingers, it would pull that knuckle down?
Yeah. My only concern with that is making it rigid enough to actually have the path defined, right? But still soft enough that it doesn't actually get in the way of you closing your hand. Because that's going to kind of get in the way too.
Right. It seems to me, just on the surface, that it might be wise to consider going between the fingers, but that would require a routing to support that so that the cable doesn't dig into the skin between the fingers. And you're wanting to actuate that proximal from a pretty short distance.
Yeah.
I know introducing a push-pull is going to introduce a lot of complications right off the bat.
Mhm.
And so you would have to really be committed to want to do a push-pull, but that would solve some of your problems. If you did a push-pull from the top, I don't know if you would have enough force to close the fingers with a push.
Yeah, because like right now, the force really has to be like way out here if it's going to actually close at all.
Right.
Otherwise, it's not effective at all.
Right.
I'm just not
Right.
sure
Right.
if that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Let's see. Wait. Hold on. I gotta move rooms here. I'm thinking, and I'm moving rooms. My wife came in to watch her radio program. Obviously you don't want to, you're trying to stay away from getting into the palm area so as to not inhibit the movement. Or when you're doing this, are they actually planning on using this device as a working prosthesis, or are you planning on using this device just as a therapy tool?
I would like it to be able to be a working orthotic for like stroke patients too. Although when I did talk to the kid, he said that he'd maybe use it around the house for therapy, but not in public. So I'd like it to be functional enough to actually rely on. And I guess it could interact with the palm a little bit, as long as it stays like out of the way, so that you can still, you still have to be able to close without interrupting that.
I'm thinking, what if you went ahead and brought all your cables over from the top, and so obviously your extension cables will be easy because they're extending, you're pulling from the top. That's a natural movement. In order to facilitate your flexion, you could come from the top between each finger, and like you said, you don't have to hit the metacarpal right back near the joint. As long as you hit the proximal somewhere behind the first joint of the knuckle, that would be close enough, and you'll have more leverage there. If you brought your flexion cables from the top and in a cable housing, and then mounted that cable housing into the top side of your metacarpal area between the fingers, and then just made a little boss on the side of each proximal to accept that flexion cable. So instead of pulling from the center of the finger of the proximal, you're pulling from the side of the proximal. Does that make sense?
I'm just staring at my hand and seeing how that would work. Possibly.
I'm going to try to set my phone here.
I'll get my notebook and write that down for later.
I can't find a good place to put my phone. Okay. I'm going to get a tool, a pencil. Here we go. Get something darker color. There we go. So I'm thinking if you brought your flexion cable, obviously your extension cable is going to come right over the center of each proximal.
Bob,
You could put, yes.
Bob, can you pull
Yes.
your hand higher above our little pictures at the bottom?
How's that?
Our pictures, no, up. There we go. Well, I can see your head. There. Oh. Yeah, good. Good.
Okay. So obviously your extension cable is going to be right in the center of each one of your proximals. And I was thinking that you could put your flexion cables between the fingers and then just run a little, and then within a cable housing, so that will give you flexibility in the way you route your cable. And then the only time it will leave the housing will be right at the top of the metacarpal, where that cable can reach under the bottom side of your proximal, and you can put a little boss, a little connection boss, or a trunnion, if you will, to connect your flexion cable to the bottom side of each one of your proximals to draw it back. I could draw something up for you and send it to you tomorrow.
Okay.
But just in concept, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I mean, that's really the only option you have if you're trying to stay away from the palm, by putting something inside the palm.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, if you could send me a picture or something, that would be great, because I'm just trying to imagine how that would work. So.
Right. I'll put a SolidWorks model together for you tomorrow and make a drawing of it and send it to you. If you could email me, on my email's on my profile,
Yes.
so that I can email you directly.
Okay.
And I'll. Can you open up SolidWorks?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I have 13. Is that okay for you?
It'll probably still work. Yeah, I think I have 14.
Oh yeah, as long as you have at least 13, that'll be fine. Yeah, I'll put together a finger for you tomorrow. I'll build it in SolidWorks, and then I'll put it in a drawing, and I'll send you the model and the drawing, and then we can fight about it from there.
That would be great. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Also, welcome, David.
Yes.
Thanks.
So, actually, that was the conversation I was hoping would happen tonight. I thought Bob was exactly the right person to get in contact with you, Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get out some paper and see if I can draw something right now.
So, Elizabeth, did you see the conversation with Ashley Webster and Greg Johnson about the possibility of your device being applied to arthritis?
I am not sure if I saw that specifically.
Okay, I will go get it and link it in the group chat in here.
Okay.
You know how to get to the group chat?
What?
Do you know how to get to the group chat?
Oh, I'm talking about the sidebar chat in our window that we're talking in.
Right. Right. So if you move your mouse to the left-hand side of your screen, Elizabeth,
Yes, there is a
you'll see a row of icons. The top one looks like two word balloons from comic strips, and it says chat when you hover over it. If you click on that, it gives you a list of the sidebar chat, or the sidebar chat pops up on the right-hand side.
Cool. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
So that's where I will put the link to that post once I find it.
Okay.
Sometimes you can't copy and paste from the things in the sidebar, so the best way to get links is to actually click them and then collect them from the browser after it's open.
Right.
I don't think you can see this.
Let me make you a presenter, Bob. All right.
Can you see that drawing at all?
Almost.
If I was smarter, I would be able to do this on my laptop and be able to screen share. But I have the computer skills of a second grader at best. And I'm way smarter than I look.
No. Right? Drawing things down is easiest to like understand, right?
Yeah.
Agreed.
I mean, I've owned a computer for a total of 4 years.
Wow.
And like I said, plus I'm not very smart anyway, so it's a real challenge.
You've shown way too much innovation with hand designs to convince me of that.
Well, it's funny. When I first got a computer, I had to learn the computer and Windows 7 and SolidWorks all at the same time. And I swear to God, there were nights when I was literally in tears. I would work on I built that hand like 4 years ago, and I would work on it 10 hours on a Saturday, and by Saturday night, everything I did was trash, and I had to throw it away, and I was just literally, I just cried, and my wife would say, "Honey, you'll learn." I don't know.
That's what you get for jumping in right in the middle of the river without having had a chance to do some training swimming first.
Right.
And no frame of reference for anything. You just, okay, I'm jumping in.
Yeah.
I tend to frustrate around about a lot of things, so that's how I learned Google Plus, was frustrating around until I figured it out.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that was, I figured that out eventually, but.
Yeah, I find that we learn fastest when we have failures.
Yep.
Yeah, trial by fire.
Yeah. You don't forget the things that hit you in the head.
No.
Oh, man.
That's why I got really, really good at yo-yos.
Is that what's wrong with you, Trouble?
Oh, shots fired.
Well, actually, I boxed for about 10 years in St. Louis, and so I think that's probably part of my problem. I've got Dane Bramage.
David, did you say something?
No, I'm just listening.
He's just laughing at me.
I can feel your frustration, because I go through the same thing. I'll design something, I'll spend like an entire weekend on it, and I'll be like, this is garbage, throw it out.
Yeah. I'm lucky my son has become a SolidWorks expert. He works at Murphy. And so I don't even mess with it anymore. I just wait till he comes over. I mean, I can design machines in my SolidWorks, but doing this soft and doing this weird shapes is a lot more difficult.
I mean, SolidWorks is not the best for weird shapes. I've been working with SolidWorks since high school, and it's still just no.
Yeah, I think I use probably about 10% of SolidWorks.
Have you guys tried Fusion 360 to compare?
Pardon me?
Have you guys tried Fusion 360 to compare?
I've never tried it. I've never tried it. I guess I could try it.
Well, you have to have a 64-bit system to be able to use it, though.
I have that, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so, and I can point you to some tutorials and all kinds of stuff if you ever decide you want to do that. And that goes for everybody.
Yeah, there were a series of Hangout On Air tutorials that the e-NABLE group did on how to use the Fusion 360. So they're worth.
I did that.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, Andreas and his friend were the teachers, and I hosted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get on that because I just didn't have the motivation to learn a whole new CAD system.
Yeah.
And I didn't have time. You know, I have to work at work, and my boss is pissed off at me all the time because I'm not always, focused on my work. He hates me because, he found out I'm sleeping with his wife. I'm self-employed, excuse me. And she likes me better. That really pissed him off.
Nah.
Hi, John.
Hello, Bob. How are you?
Extremely good, sir.
Good.
Hi, John.
And hello, everybody else. Look at all these people.
Yep.
I apparently accidentally started the first iteration of the Hangout half an hour earlier than I had scheduled it for, and that's why I was having so much difficulty inviting people.
That's what I thought. I thought that might have been the problem.
Yeah.
So what's the topic?
We were talking about the Airy Hand. Elizabeth had posted a question on the e-NABLE group earlier today about getting this joint to flex that way. And I thought that getting her and Bob together might hash out some interesting ideas.
She explained to me what she's doing. This is for a paralysis patient, and she's wanting to flex existing fingers in both directions, extension and extend and flex existing fingers as an exoskeleton. And so I told her that I would CAD some stuff up tomorrow and send it to her in SolidWorks. And basically what I told her was, obviously the extension cables are going to be easier because they're going to come right over the central line of the proximals. But the flexion lines, I suggested putting between the fingers and adding a little boss down on the bottom of each proximal to accept the flexion cable to come over from the top. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but I'll work on that tomorrow.
Yeah, I was wondering if, like, the brake cable with the sheath around it could be run across the palm to grab onto something hooked onto the ring with a little leverage, like a little angle up, that could then be pulled down to cause the hand to flex. But I'm not sure what you would mount the sheath of the cable to across the palm, and I'm not sure the sheaths, the tube that the brake lines go through would prevent, when you grab something from the grip, from causing the friction to get in the way of pulling the grip. But again, you've got to have something for the tubes to connect to up here, and I don't have a quick answer to that. But it seems like pulling across the palm might be an easier answer than trying to do something through the fingers from behind.
I kind of think you're right. I'm sitting here looking at my finger. You would have to extend your boss down from the proximals a considerable distance in order to get enough. Well, I don't even know if that would work. I'm kind of, I'll have to give that some thought tonight for sure. It'll give me something to think about.
Right. Another thing that might work from behind the palm is if you had something for the cables to ride over between the fingers that goes down to a wheel a little bit below where the rings are, and then a cable to go back up to where the ring is, so that when the pull happens, when you extend and it pulls, it has leverage again. But then again, you end up with cables in this area that are possibly exposed to whatever you're grabbing onto, and I'm not sure if that's the best idea yet. But
right. No, I'm following what you're saying, Trouble. I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, I don't know how to stretch it out.
I'll have to kind of give that some thought. It kind of brings back a memory when I was building my first hand. I'd be out to dinner with my wife, and I'd be sitting there at this restaurant, and I had my hand in my lap, and I'd be bending my fingers, figuring out motions, and she'd say, "Are you looking at your hand?" "No." "No, not me. That was somebody else."
Oh, I frequently have Sharpie all over the back of my hand, like where I'm.
Oh yeah. Well, that's a good idea. That's actually a really good idea. I hadn't thought about that. Just draw a mechanism right on your hand. It makes a lot of sense.
So in the sidebar, John asks if you've got your hand handy, Elizabeth. Could you show it?
I do not, because I don't have really a functioning hand at this point. So much as
So what is it you have there?
What?
What is it you're wearing?
Right now, I'm just wearing these rings. So these are connected rings, supposedly connected.
I see. So
Rings
there's
on the and this is like a large fidget spinning ring.
Got it. So Andreas was showing off something in the last hour's hangout, in which the axle for a finger bending activity was actually not at the center, but it was overhead. It was up near the top.
Yeah.
Oh, I get it.
And so that's actually why I have this. As you can see, it's actually larger than the joint. So when it's opening or closing, the force is actually pulling along this. Would supposedly be pulling along this circle, either way.
Right.
And so it's not straight through the joint, because that's not going to give you any mechanical movement at all. It's actually
Okay. I guess you're on the principle already.
Yeah. Larger circle is more leverage.
I met a woman recently who builds prosthetic devices. She's a tech, I guess you'd say. And she's been coaching me on some of my socket building activities. And I will call her and ask her if she has any ideas for exoskeleton stuff, because she works with, I'm sure she's probably run across most of the people she works with do not missing fingers. They're more the kind of stuff Elizabeth is working on, getting non-functioning fingers to work better. And I will quiz her on that.
That will be cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Just to introduce a wacky concept, I'll point out that I think much of what we're wrestling with right now. Elizabeth, are you there?
I'm still here.
Okay. You're going to have to see the screen in order to get my point.
I'm watching.
You're watching. Okay, fine. I'll believe you. All of the logic of what we're doing has to do with pulling, and as we just discussed, moving the pivot higher means that movement inwards is going to give you more leverage. But I will now just point out that there is another way to bend the fingers, and that is if you had a thing that you could push against.
I see. I'm following you. I'm
Just
following you.
another approach. I don't know. I don't know what mechanism you use for that, but
that's one thing that I asked Elizabeth about. Just what you're saying, John, about if she given any thought to a push-pull device.
Right.
That would eliminate a lot of problems.
And I guess what I'm pointing out here is that when the fingers are straight, this spike is invisible and flush against the hand, but when the finger bends, it might give you something that could have a fair amount of leverage.
Excellent idea, John. Excellent idea. I'm going to follow that thread.
Cool. I'm glad someone can.
I totally understand what you're saying.
Here's another half-baked idea. Hold on. It's not letting me stop presenting, or stop a presenter. Let me see if I can make myself a presenter. No, it's not letting me change it. So you have to look in the little window, I guess. What if you had like a partial glove across the palm with something to hook springs to that hooked to the ring, just a spring, that would cause them to be a closed by default arrangement.
Naturally closed.
Yeah, naturally closed, and then the extension would stretch it, but it would close when the hand is, it would only be as strong as the springs, and you could have some of the glove go over the springs, covering them in the area between the ring and the joint. But just springs across that particular joint might be enough to provide the tension in that particular joint that you want. The rest of the strength would be with the other knuckles on the finger.
Well, along those lines, then just a piece of elastic along that joint would essentially do the same thing?
Yeah, I think so. Elastic is as good a spring as spring.
I've got some better springs than elastic that I'd be glad to send to you, Elizabeth.
That's true. But elastic doesn't pinch.
Right, you're right. You're right there. I'm going to put together, if you send me your address, I'll put together a package of springs and nickel titanium wire that you can use. I'll just send you a whole bunch of crap that you can play with.
Yay!
I sent one to Nicholas Byra recently, and I sent one to Greg Dennison. I will send one to you. I just go through all my stuff, and I just get everything that you could possibly use for anything, and I'll send it to you.
That sounds wonderful. I will email you my...
Elizabeth, you'll have to share.
It's a toy box.
Right?
It's a toy box. I'll send you shoulder bolts, special screws, fasteners, all kinds of stuff that I've collected.
I'm going to bounce off and on for a second. I'll be right back.
Okay. John, that's an excellent idea. I'm gonna definitely keep that in mind, and I'm gonna work on your idea, and I'm gonna work on some other possible ideas, and I'll talk to my friend Joanne and see how I can work out. I'm gonna work out at least 2 different scenarios for what you're doing, Elizabeth.
Okay, that sounds great.
So, Elizabeth, did you see in the sidebar chat the
Yes.
link that I gave you for the arthritis conversation?
Yes, I actually did see that conversation earlier.
Okay, cool.
And to answer it, I believe that it could potentially help people with arthritis, if I can get it working.
Yeah. On this particular application that you're looking at, Elizabeth, how, is this a paralysis patient or?
This patient is partially paralyzed in that his motor cortex does not have enough room to control his hand and wrist. So he's working on one motor cortex for all of his body.
Okay. How much? I know it's sometimes in some paralysis patients, sometimes as their muscles, I don't know what they shorten, it sometimes, depending on the length of their paralysis, those muscles can be very difficult to work against. Has he experienced any of that muscle shortening? Where I guess the reason I'm asking this question is I'm trying to figure out is how much pressure is going to be needed to extend the fingers.
Well, that was actually my problem with my previous design. I had just a bar across the finger, and there was no way that it could make enough force to open his fingers. So that is actually something that I'm working with, and I'm not sure how to quantify how much force is needed on him. But there is, these joints here are just kind of curled, and when he gets stressed and starts thinking about having to move them, they get hard to move. So.
Got it. So it takes a significant amount of force to extend his fingers.
I forgot.
Of course.
I forgot to repeat some of the questions that were in the group chat. Tim asks if the airy hand can be reconfigured to drive motion from the shoulder, and also points out that tendons shorten in stroke patients.
He points out what trouble?
Tendons shorten in stroke patients.
Right. Got it.
So I'm actually not sure how tendon shortening would come into play. I shall have to look that up in my wonderful anatomy book that I'm looking at right now. But for the shoulder harness, I'm pretty sure it would be a really easy modification to make it work from the shoulder or from the wrist for like arthritis patients. It's just that I'm controlling it from the elbow because that's what my main patient can control. So,
Right.
Say again, Elizabeth, that's what can control?
my main patient, the patient that I'm mostly working on this for.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I was in a hangout some time back with John, and he mentioned that sometimes it's not convenient for the user to have to bend their elbow in order to close their hand, and so that might be a reason to consider operating it from the shoulder. You'll have more horsepower there, and you don't need a lot of travel. But that's just a total idea. I'm just throwing that idea out. That way, it would make it unnecessary to bend your elbow in order to get something like John showed in one of his demonstrations. To bend your elbow, to bend your fingers is sometimes inconvenient.
Yeah, that actually does make a lot of sense.
And the motion of squeezing and extending the shoulder doesn't affect your position of your hand so much, and so it might be an easier way for some people to reach out and grab things. And it definitely speaks to the limitations that Tim's working with.
Right. And we've made a fair amount of progress on harnesses. Not that it needed inventing, but it was actually amazingly hard for us to get it to work. But we now have a harness recipe from Dr. Chi and 2 variations in the lab, Elizabeth. So if you come by, you can just get a feel. Ultimately, though, it's just an alternative way of pulling the string, which leaves you with your current question of how are you going to bend and unbend those fingers.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I wonder if maybe at this point we could, somebody could consider, do we want to make this person's, Elizabeth's client's hand, would it be more advantageous to make it normally open, or would it be more advantageous to make it normally closed?
Well, the way that I had it set up right now is that when he would straighten his elbow out, like to reach for something, it opens his fingers, and then when he pulls his arm back to bend his elbow, it closes the fingers.
So it's going to be powered in both directions.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, great. Okay, what I'm going to come up with a normally open concept, and I'm going to come up with a powered in both directions concept for you.
Okay.
So, Elizabeth, you were saying that when his hand is kind of in its relaxed position, that he's got a lot of, the more he tries to move it, the more tension he has. Is that correct?
Yes. His hand is actually neutral around here.
Okay.
So these joints are straight, but these ones are closed. And
Do you know how much, like, I guess, force he's able to put on his fingers right now? Because basically what you're working against right now is straightening his fingers out, correct?
Yes.
And then you can you almost release the mechanism, and he would have enough grip force to, say, hold a cup or something along those lines?
Well, I'm not sure, because I have to focus on opening these fingers, but then I also, once I let go of those, I have to be able to close these in order to make an actual grip.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
There's a lot to think about. I kind of
my idea with the elastics on the palm might make things more difficult for him, because it might increase tension when he's when he's in his relaxed state? Or would that not be a problem with the rest of the mechanics for extending?
Well, I'm not entirely sure, actually, because, yeah, if you put the elastic there, then you have to fight that to open it also. But then
Right.
you don't have to fight to close it. So
Right.
it's all a matter of if we can come up with an active way to close that, or if elastic's going to be the best that, like the
Let
best.
me ask you a question. Go ahead, Elizabeth. I'm sorry.
It's just if it's going to be easier to actively close it or to let the elastic do that instead.
What's your client's name?
Camden.
What is it?
Camden.
Camden. If Camden's hand, when it's just in its totally natural state right now, without any apparatus on it, his fingers naturally all want to close? All of his fingers?
Sort of.
Sort of. Mostly his pinky and his ring finger want to close.
John, do you remember better how his hand was in neutral when he visited?
I have this recollection of his hand sort of curled like this.
Got it. Got it. Get
Yeah.
it. I got it. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Kind of how my hand behaves, except it gets a lot more at the first joint and a lot less at the others.
Right. On Camden's hand, when he chooses to flex his hands, do they flex pretty well?
Well, this goes back to he only has one motor cortex, and so he can completely, like, his whole right side is completely normal, but then it's just his, like, the wrist and hand on his left side aren't actually really even connected to his brain at the moment.
Got it. Got it.
Nowhere in the brain that is controlling that movement. So.
Okay, I get it. I get it. I'm following you. I was kind of following an idea that David had kind of put out. Go ahead, John.
I have been doodling here. Hello, there we go. See my screen?
Yes.
So this is meant to be, here's a finger pointing out this way. And this may be all obvious, but this is meant to be the pivot point here. But that horizontal line underneath is meant to be the spring. And my point is that you can get a lot of leverage. This is what I've learned today. Is that you could potentially get more leverage by moving the pivots and the pull point to opposite sides.
Yeah, I've been talking about that for a while now.
I mean, I'm sure that's what you guys mean by a moment arm, but I hadn't quite. I've been assuming that you want the joint of the finger in the middle of the finger, but in our case, we could put it way up near the top, for example.
That's how my fingers worked. I moved my pivot points as high as I could get them on the finger.
You get more mechanical advantage.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's why you are an engineer.
I'm just barely smarter than I look.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm following you. Okay, I know where I'm headed with this.
Good.
Okay, so as far as I'm concerned, I think I understand enough about Elizabeth's project. I'm gonna launch into this this evening and make some sketches, and I'm gonna make some SolidWorks models, and based on some of the things that you talked about, John, and then I'm gonna also, one of the things that David said kind of led me towards a push-pull device, because we're not gonna need a whole lot of pull. We'll need some, but it seems like we almost need more extension than flexion. It's almost like we need almost at least as much extension force as we do flexion force.
Right. Right.
Okay.
So before we split, I haven't met David McDonald before. Have you guys learned who our visitor is?
No, please introduce yourself, David.
Yes.
Who the hell are you?
I'm just a guy. I've actually, for years, when I got out of high school initially, I was very much interested in getting into engineering, specifically for robotics and manufacturing prosthetics. That was kind of my dream. That dream didn't quite happen. Ended up going into electronics, and after doing that for a couple of years, then got into the computer industry, and after doing that for a number of years, I left and became an airline pilot.
Get out of here.
Yeah, of all things, eh?
Yeah.
So I just recently purchased a 3D printer, and I don't know how I ran across it. It must have been I was looking at a 3D website somewhere for 3D prints and came across a story about this project, and I thought, oh, I've got to get involved with it in some form or another.
I had the same downfall.
And David, where do you fly?
Well, I'm based out of Halifax, Nova Scotia, which is the east coast of Canada, and I fly, goodness, all the way to Toronto and then further west, and then we go to Chicago and Newark and Washington, those sorts of things. So
What
kind of all over the place.
What kind of planes do you fly?
I fly a Dash 8 Q400, so it's a 74-passenger turboprop.
Got it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good to know. We have a friend in high places. Ha
Yeah. So yeah, I was pretty excited to see this project, and I'm hoping that I can brainstorm some ideas of my own and maybe help out a little bit. We'll see.
Well, we will definitely put you to work.
All right, sounds good.
I'm sure, David, in your flight training, you probably had to take a little bit of engineering.
No engineering, but it involved just about everything. Anything from a bit of electronics, but I already had a background in that, to weather and air law, physics, you name it, we did it. See,
airplane mechanics, aircraft mechanics.
A little bit, yeah. You have to know some you have to understand the ins and outs of, turboprop engines and jet engines and hydraulics and
control surfaces,
electrical, everything. Yeah.
Actuation. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm increasingly
real pleasure to have you aboard, David.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, I'm increasingly of the opinion that the real reason that John started this group is the opportunities for puns was overwhelming.
There you go. All right, and on that note, I think I'm gonna cut out.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, pleasure to see you all.
Always a pleasure, John.
Yeah, John, can you check that next week? Oh.
I think you have to catch him on the offline.
Yeah.
Anyways, I gotta finish dinner, so.
Right, it's also kind of late in the evening for you, so thanks for joining us, Elizabeth.
I'm glad I could finally join, and thanks for the help.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, send me your address and then email me, and then I'll send you a bunch of junk, and then we can work on this stuff together.
Cool.
You are so much more motivated than I am. Thank you.
There's nothing better than a random pile of junk in a box. Gotta love it.
Oh, I'm telling you. Well, I'll also send you some. I got a whole bunch of 3/16 orthocast material. I have the foam and the hard shell material. I'll send you some of that as well.
Wow. Okay. I'll find a use
It's-
for it.
It's super easy to use. Super easy.
All right, guys. So I'm going to take off too, but it was nice meeting all of you, and I'm sure I'll join up again here and chat with you.
We do them
Pleasure,
every other
David.
one.
Okay.
Thanks
See
for
you
joining
guys.
us, David.
Have a good night.
You too.
You too.
I'm going to cut out too.
All right, Bob. Thanks for helping out.
God bless all.
Yes.
You too.
All right.
I'm going to go ahead and shut down the broadcast.